I have learned to seek my happiness by limiting my desires, rather than in attempting to satisfy them. Bad men need nothing more to compass their ends, than that good men should look on and do nothing. It is better to be a human being dissatisfied than a pig satisfied, better to be Socrates dissatisfied than a fool satisfied. And if the fool, or the pig, are of a different opinion, it is because they only know their own side of the question. Landlords grow rich in their sleep without working, risking, or economizing. Over one's mind and over one's body the individual is sovereign. It is better to be Socrates dissatisfied than a pig satisfied. One person with a belief is equal to 99 who have only interests. Those only are happy who have their minds fixed on some object other than their own happiness, on the happiness of others, on the improvement of mankind, even on some art or pursuit, followed not as a means, but as itself an ideal end. Aiming thus at something else, they find happiness by the way. When one's ideas are not challenged, one's ability to defend them weakens. Both teachers and learners go to sleep at their post as soon as there is no enemy in the field. Genius can only breathe freely in an atmosphere of freedom. The liberty of the individual must be thus far limited: he must not make himself a nuisance to other people. Liberty lies in the rights of that person whose views you find most odious. A person may cause evil to others not only by his actions but by his inaction, and in either case he is justly accountable to them for the injury. War is an ugly thing, but not the ugliest of things. The decayed and degraded state of moral and patriotic feeling which thinks that nothing is worth war is much worse. Every great movement must experience 3 stages: ridicule, discussion, adoption. A cultivated mind is one to which the fountains of knowledge have been opened, and which has been taught, in any tolerable degree, to exercise its faculties. A profound conviction raises a man above the feeling of ridicule. The study of science teaches young men to think, while study of the classics teaches them to express thought. The only part of the conduct of anyone, for which he is amenable to society, is that which concerns others. In the part which merely concerns himself, his independence is, of right, absolute. Over himself, over his own body and mind, the individual is sovereign. Men do not desire to be rich, but to be richer than other men. I have observed that not the man who hopes when others despair, but the man who despairs when others hope, is admired by a large class of persons as a sage. Ask yourself whether you are happy, and you cease to be so. Whatever helps to shape the human being, to make the individual what he is, or hinder him from being what he is not, is part of his education. To tax the larger incomes at a higher percentage than the smaller, is to lay a tax on industry and economy, to impose a penalty on people for having worked harder and saved more than their neighbors. There is always hope when people are forced to listen to both sides. A party of order or stability, and a party of progress or reform, are both necessary elements of a healthy state of political life. If all mankind minus one were of one opinion, mankind would be no more justified in silencing that one person than he, if he had the power, would be justified in silencing mankind. The amount of eccentricity in a society has generally been proportional to the amount of genius, mental vigor, and moral courage it contained. That so few now dare to be eccentric marks the chief danger of the time. As long as justice and injustice have not terminated their ever-renewing fight for ascendancy in the affairs of mankind, human beings must be willing, when need is, to do battle for the one against the other. Sometimes you hit a point where you either change or self-destruct. The cause, then, philosophically speaking, is the sum total of the conditions, positive and negative, taken together, the whole of the contingencies of every description, which being realized, the consequent invariably follows. A state which dwarfs its men, in order that they may be more docile instruments in its hands even for beneficial purposes, will find that with small men no great thing can really be accomplished. Every man who says frankly and fully what he thinks is so far doing a public service. We should be grateful to him for attacking most unsparingly our most cherished opinions. Although it is not true that all conservatives are stupid people, it is true that most stupid people are conservative. Mankind are greater gainers by suffering each other to live as seems good to themselves, than by compelling each to live as seems good to the rest. The concessions of the privileged to the unprivileged are seldom brought about by any better motive than the power of the unprivileged to extort them. Life has a certain flavor for those who have fought and risked all that the sheltered and protected can never experience. The price paid for intellectual pacification is the sacrifice of the entire moral courage of the human mind. Landlords grow rich in their sleep without working, risking, or economizing. The increase in the value of land, arising as it does from the efforts of an entire community, should belong to the community and not to the individual who might hold title. It is part of the irony of life that the strongest feelings of devoted gratitude of which human nature seems to be susceptible, are called forth in human beings towards those who, having the power entirely to crush their earthly existence, voluntarily refrain from using that power. Strange it is that men should admit the validity of the arguments for free speech but object to their being pushed to an extreme, not seeing that unless the reasons are good for an extreme case, they are not good for any case. There are many truths of which the full meaning cannot be realized until personal experience has brought it home. A general state education is a mere contrivance for molding people to be exactly like one another, and as the mold in which it casts them is that which pleases the dominant power in the government. A man who has nothing for which he is willing to fight, nothing which is more important than his own personal safety, is a miserable creature and has no chance of being free unless made and kept so by the exertions of better men than himself. The most important thing women have to do is to stir up the zeal of women themselves. The habit of analysis has a tendency to wear away the feelings. No one can be a great thinker who does not recognize that as a thinker it is his first duty to follow his intellect to whatever conclusions it may lead. Marriage is the only actual bondage known to our law. There remain no legal slaves, except the mistress of every house. Thanks for watching. Please support my channel. Don't forget to like the video and subscribe for regular content. Like, comment and share. See you next time.